If you've whispered, God, rest feels impossible, you're not alone. I used to think unhurried living was something you had to escape to. A quieter season, a calmer home, a life with fewer demands. But as I studied Jesus' unhurried nature, I realized something that changed everything. Today I found myself thinking, I'll rest when Jesus comes. But underneath the thought was a longing for slower mornings and evenings that didn't crash but landed gently. I wondered in the moment if rest was even possible in this season. But as I paused and anchored myself in scripture, God whispered to my heart, I created you for a slower pace, even here, even now. And He showed me I wasn't alone. Mark chapter 6 makes that very clear. Here's the truth. God designed you to live unhurried in the middle of your real life. Not after the kids grow up, not when the house gets quiet, not when the season slows down. Unhurried living isn't an escape. Unhurried living is a calling. For a long time, I watched those slow living videos, the ones with peaceful mornings and quiet routines and long countryside walks. But most of the time, the persons in the videos, they were single or empty nesters, and these were people living off in the country away from the noise of the city. And I would think to myself, that would be my life when my kids get older or when we move outside of the city. And maybe you felt that too. But here is the biblical truth that changed my life. Unhurried living is for every season, every schedule, and every level of responsibility. Unhurried living is for every season, every schedule, and every level of responsibility. Because if you desire to love God with your heart, your mind, and strength, then you are invited to have the mind of Christ. And He lived unhurried. Biblical slow living is an act of obedience. We long for a slower pace because God created us that way. And Jesus makes rest possible even when life is not quiet. And Mark chapter 6 shows us how. Here's where scripture becomes a mirror. In Mark 6:30-31, the disciples had been preaching, healing, casting out demons. They come back excited, full of stories, full of impact. But listen to what Jesus focuses on. Mark chapter 6 verse 31 says, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." Inside these verses is one of the most freeing thoughts. Jesus notices their exhaustion before their accomplishments. He doesn't say, "Great job, keep going." He says, "You've poured out, now come away and rest." And maybe you felt this too. You're doing good work, faithful work, unseen work, and the demands don't slow down. Most of what you do isn't loud or applauded, but Jesus sees it. He sees that you have showed up. He sees that you poured out, and He wants to pour back into you. Then scripture continues in Mark 6:32 to 34, and it says, "So they went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. But many who saw them leaving recognized them and ran ahead of them." Jesus invites them, the disciples, to a quiet place, but the quiet place gets interrupted. They withdraw, they try to breathe, they try to rest, they try to get quiet with Jesus, and immediately someone needs them, someone follows them, someone interrupts them. I read that and I thought, that is the life of a mom. In fact, that's the life of any woman living in a demanding season. This part of scripture felt like looking in a mirror, because if you're in a season that demands a lot, raising littles, caring for family, holding everything together, the disciples' experience is yours. They made the decision to receive the rest Jesus offered, and the crowd still ran ahead of them. But watch what Jesus does. Mark 6:34 says, "When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them." He doesn't snap, he doesn't rush, he doesn't shut down. He responds with compassion. Rest is not a reward, it's a gift from God. And if you see rest as something you earn, you live in a constant state of hurry trying to get to it. If you believe rest is waiting for you on the other side of this season, you'll stay trapped in exhaustion. But unhurried living, real rest, is received. It's your calling in the midst of real life. Jesus makes rest possible even when life is not quiet. Mark 6 teaches us that rest isn't the absence of noise or need. Rest is the presence of Jesus in the middle of it all. The truth is, my children will still need me. My responsibilities are still real. My days may still be full. But rest becomes possible the moment I stop trying to carry everything in my own strength and I begin to walk in step with the one who carries me. I choose to see rest not as a place I have to get to, and this is the unhurried way, not necessarily a quieter life, but a quieter heart and mind. If rest has felt impossible, let Mark 6 remind you of this. Jesus sees your exhaustion before your accomplishments. He calls you into rest even when life doesn't slow down. And his unhurried way is for you in this season with these responsibilities in the exact life you're living. He has given you everything you need to rest, not by stopping your life, but by changing how you move through it with him. Let's take a moment to pause. Drop your shoulders. Soften your jaw. Let your breath slow. Place one hand on your chest. Feel the rise and fall. Let your breath remind you that you are safe, held, and not alone. Our scripture pause for today is Psalm 23 verse 3. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Our breath prayer. You restore my soul, Lord. I release what I cannot carry. And our promise to claim, I can slow down because I am restored in Jesus. I can slow down because I am restored in Jesus.